Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. We're starting a little bit early today because Little Redhead was feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm probably still going to go to my standard stopping time. So if you joined us at the advertised 2 p.m. server time, you can skip backwards in time to now, which you are currently watching, otherwise you wouldn't hear that. So hello. Last time on Plugging Along, we switched to working on the Festival Buddy plugin. It's Harvestmath time, and Festival Buddy is missing the Haunted Burrow and the Tangle Maze. Oh, and we have some raiders from Triu. Hello. Well, welcome. I was just getting started myself, so you know what I know. So yes, last time on Plugging Along, we switched to Festival Buddy plugin because it's Harvestmath. So today we're going to keep working on what we did. We were working on the Tangle Maze, and so we're probably going to go back there and start by loading in updated route maps. So you have one for the challenge and one for the cheat, and we'll probably crop them a little bit better to match the in-game boundaries, so our location detection works a little bit better. And as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. They can be about plugins, they can be about LOTRO in general, whatever. Okay, with that introduction to what we're doing done, let's go ahead and take a look. So, what is the Festival Buddy plugin? Well, quite naturally, it's a buddy for festivals. And what that means can be a little bit different based off of the festival that you're doing. But for instance, if we're doing Harvestmath, this will kindly track the cooldown on your various chests and things like geodes and pumpkins, but it will also give you information about quests. Now, I've already loaded in a couple of the Haunted Burrow quests. So, for instance, if we pick up Rattling in the Haunted Burrow, we get a handy-dandy but super tiny map of the Haunted Burrow and directions on how to navigate through it. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that this is, good, because it's very tiny. But for me, it serves as a kind of a reminder of what am I doing. So let's go ahead and run through and make use of this. So we start at 1, and we want to go to the attic following the green route. All right, so we go to the right, we go to the left, come on down here, and into this door. Awesome. Oh, apparently I haven't remade these after I made some changes. That's okay. Okay, so we come on through the attic, and we are pulling this chain. And then driving off this skeleton. But it wasn't a skeleton. However, I'm a level 68 Mariner, so that's no problem. So, there are multiple traps in the attic, and just remember that you get a cooldown, like an internal cooldown when you trigger a trap. So I like to clip the go blind trap before getting to the door, so I don't trip the you are stunned for a couple of seconds having bats attack you trap. You know, your mileage may vary. Oh, and now we just follow the blue line back out. But yeah, when there's an option, I much prefer the temporary blindness but still moving trap to the you are stunned trap. And there's a variety of you are stunned. Okay, so done with the rattling. We can do Roaring Maw. Now this is the more complicated. It takes you through almost all of the Haunted Burrow. And we can see go to Cobwebbed Wing Green. Okay, so we start at the front. We go around here, and we take this door back here on the left. Duly noted. Okay, we're at 2 here, so it says use the honey to defeat the bear. Now there's one of those stunning traps here with the spider. So if I had triggered a different trap more recently, I could have walked past that. Alright, around the corner. Use the honey, defeat the quote-unquote bear. Rawr. But it was only a hobbit. So we come on around here. This will take us to the creeping wing, and there's a quick shot through it. The longest part, if you go through the basement, you're going to find that takes the longest of just about anything. Oh, cool down. But there's not much in the way of traps. It's just hallways that you have to walk through. And do be aware of that. You have to do the second door here, and we are out. Okay. So, blindness trap, but you can pass just over a corner. And we are out. So, I don't know. I feel like these maps are better than nothing, but I'm constrained by the size available to us, which was 262 pixels by 147 pixels. And that's what that space in here takes. So to stick within that without making changes, the map itself shrinks down a little bit. So I don't know if I'm happy with the size of the map, but I guess if anyone's watching and has opinions on that, let me know. For me, I think it's just enough where coming back to it fresh after a year, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't want the first door here, I want the second door, okay, cool. And then in here I go around to the right, okay, yeah, I kind of remember that. But I don't know how helpful it would be for someone coming to it fresh. No, it's a ghost. Quick, get it. Oh, it was only a hobbit. Okay. So, we go out, and we're back in the basement. And again, the basement is trap-free on the main path, which I quite like. So it's just a question of running around that zigzag. Okay, turn that into Polo. Those are the three that I've implemented so far as a way of exploring what's up with the Haunted Burrow. But today's main focus is going to be the Tangle Maze. So we're going to go ahead and take ourselves over there and say goodbye to Rose and Bloom. Bye. However, Rose and Bloom may be following us so they can keep on using their spooky tricks. Oh, no. And we'll see. Alright, over here is the pony to Wistmead. Apparently you can't get on while you are running. I really like this Tidebreaker steed that came in the recent expansion. It leaves little puddles, footprints behind. Pretty neat. And they fade out eventually. This is not unique. There are other horses that leave prints like that, or ones that leave a trail of sparkling whatever behind them, but I like this effect. Okay. Do I have one of these quests already? Oh my goodness, I haven't done the A Windy Walk Through Wistmead. Is it worth doing it on this character? How fast is it, would you say, Rose? It's fast. Okay. Well, you know what? I do have a Spirited Harvest. I'm at 9 out of 10, so all good there. Okay, so this might be a chance to say, hey, do we want to incorporate this into the Festival Buddy? I went ahead and did that for the starting quest. So if you go up to A Cellar Door Appears, I didn't bother incorporating yet a map into it, but we do have start of a one-time quest chain to unlock the Haunted Burrow. 1. Pick up quest from Opal Goodbuddy. 2. Talk to Lobelia. 3. Talk to Gaffer Gamgee. Next quest is Bilbo's Letter, and it'll automatically start it if you take that quest. 2nd of a one-time quest chain to unlock the Haunted Burrow. Pick up a quest from Gaffer Gamgee. Ask the Gaffer for Bilbo's Letter. Bring the letter to Lobelia. Prod Lobelia for information ×4. Okay. Next quest, the Haunted Burrow. And so you can manually select these, but it also automatically select them when you take the quest. Final of a one-time quest chain to unlock the Haunted Burrow. Pick up a quest from Lobelia Sackville Baggins. Talk to Lobelia. Talk to Opal Goodbuddy. So I went ahead and incorporated these. So why not also a Windy Walk Through Wistmead? And if that's the case, we're going to want to pull up our Visual Studio Code here. But before we start making changes in code, let's go ahead and check our repository and see, do we have any changes that need to be committed? The answer is, of course we do. So, some things. I was going to look at something. What was it? Okay. Okay, I ended up not using those, I think. Yeah. Okay. But I have a file I need to save over on my other screen. Just a moment. We are in plugins, Cube plugins, Festival Buddy 2, source files, quest maps, Harvestmath, Haunted, Burrow. Large and small. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and save that. That'll show up here. Cool. So these are uncommitted changes that should be committed. So we wanted to say something. All right, we're gonna go ahead and say updated to-do file. What else? We have images here. Let's take a look at this. Oh my goodness. Yes. So some of these things are specifically items that we did last time. Oh, there's a lot of changes I forgot to commit at the end of last stream. All right, we're gonna work on that. Okay. Moved import of images so it can use global variables. So that was that. Create maze map earlier. So that was that. Okay. Don't assume spring is the only festival with mazes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and store that. Oh, my goodness, we did so much refactoring that I forgot to commit in the middle of doing it. Oops. Okay. Where are we? Use variables instead of magic numbers. And that's just this part where we're changing out 1 for spring, 2 for summer, 3 for Harvestmath, 4 for Yule, and so on. 5 for the anniversary, Farmer's Fair, Shenanigans, and Midsummer. Hopefully that'll make the rest of this more sensible. Okay, I like that. Images, what else? Moved maze images under spring entry. So instead of just being part of the global, now we have more than one maze, so we have to kind of segment them out. Here's the spring maze, here's the whatever maze. So we moved it from there and put it to there. Great. But any place that was referring to that is also part of that change right there. (1984) says, thanks for the LOTRO stream, you're welcome. And in this case, a stream about writing plugins in LOTRO. Although sometimes I actually play the game. Alright, I imagine this is going to be a couple of incomplete or incorrect check-ins, but that's okay. By the time we're done, it'll be enough. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take that. Split out Tanglecorn maps into cheat and challenge and cheat. So that's these right there. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and say added first 3 haunted Burrow maps. And that's both Burrow maps there and here. Awesome. Added a Tanglecorn images in code. That's those. Hedge maze map. Okay, updated. You know, I don't remember why I was so eager to make this a table instead of a direct image. I mean, it's a good idea, but I don't remember why, so it's hard for me to document it. Okay, split, updated. Yeah, added initial quest. No, harvest math entries to strings, Lua. Maze map win. Updated maze map win to be more parameterizable. That might be misspelled. So instead of the set text, we're going to go ahead and we're going to come in here, and we did make this customizable, so that's good. So yes, we have a starting value just so it says something. All right, just adding some documentation of why a thing was a thing, but we'll come back to that. All right, sets the titles, sets the corner coordinates. Oh, then we do need the corner coordinates here. Okay, update quest. Set background map. Setting the corner coordinates. Setting the name. And setting the image. That all looks good. And the pixels from coords. We'll go ahead and grab those coordinates from the thing that was passed in. That all is good. Okay, so in here we now have the name of the thing and the corner coordinates. We gotta have that. And you know what? Nesting these, that's just part of that. Now we're gonna say. And Harvestmath, we go ahead and add that. And we'll come back to these. Added some Harvestmath quest strings. Challenging wheat, cheat of the wheat. Now we're going to have to hard code in the idea that the map has more than one variant, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. Added comment guessing a reason a thing is a window instead of a control. So that gives us a clean working directory. Oh, hey. Added D tracker to do item. All right, we're going to push out those 14 commits so that they're no longer just stored on my machine. Now they're also in the cloud, aka someone else's machine. And that gives us a clean working directory, which is good because now we'll be able to easily undo any mistakes we make today. So what do we have? We have Wistmead. Oh, good point, Moobot. We are in the part of the year where we're doing fundraising for Extra Life, which is donations to children's hospitals. If you would like to donate, I've got a link here. I am not personally raising money, but Little Redhead is still looking to meet her goal, so I've got her information up on the screen. She's raised 335 out of the 750 she's looking to raise this year. If you are of a mind to donate money for children's hospitals, then please consider donating during this campaign. Steady Eddie says, ever considered using IMGUI or any similar GUI libraries for LOTRO plugins? I have not considered that. Let's see what that is. Lua IMGUI. That's object-oriented bindings for IMGUI. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but if that involves a third-party library that Lua would make access to, then I don't have experience trying to incorporate that into a plugin. Tolarian says, is the maze name included in the maps file? What I've currently done, Tolarian, is to give us a map entry for a festival. And this is detailing what happens when you click the map button. And so, generic maze map window. That's fantastic. We should fix that. Okay, let me come to the to-do file. Just a moment. Bug. If you either start, if you load the plugin on the current festival, the map name doesn't change. Details don't change, possibly. Let's go ahead and test that out. Festival buddy, you gotta go over there because I don't have enough room for you. Okay, so we can use the caret, system, plugin manager, unload, reload, and come back to the map. Okay, we can see that didn't work, but if we go to a different one, Harvestmath, that's still not working. Awesome. So definitely a problem with what we've currently got. So we have localizable entries when it's working for the name of the window here and what the extent of the map is. When you hover over that pixel, what coordinate should we assume that is in the game? And we can see on the, let's see. So that's presumably spring, right? Yeah. Okay. So Harvestmath, cheat of the wheat. Okay. So what we're doing is we're loading when we change the quest, but not the festival. And so I don't have a good answer for that. The festival could have a generic image, though. Okay, to do, add generic map image in case a specific quest isn't selected, and to do, load the generic map and this name here when the festival is chosen. Cool. Julian says, just want to bring your attention to it, and you either did consider localization or were lucky. I definitely considered localization. My goal is to not embed text into image that isn't fairly international, like the numbers in these quests over here. If you do Rattling in the Haunted, I've embedded 1, 2, and 3, but I figure that will be pretty reasonable for consumers of this plugin. The text down here in this box is localizable. So it says, this maze is awesome, very impressed, love your stream. Well, thank you very much. But this character hasn't done the introduction to Wistmead, so we're going to do that first. So we want to go ahead and, first of all, do we feel like we can get a map of Wistmead? That would be pretty cool. Let's see. If we come into Eriador and the Shire, no, yeah. Let's take away our markers. To Pony to Wistmead. There we go. Are you gonna do that? No? Okay. Is it an instance? Could be treated that way. No. Well, there may not be a map to show. However, there is the radar-like tool. I just gotta remember what it's called. All right, let's add a plugin. Map. Terrain map. Yes. Please add that. Now, terrain map is got a lot of small files in it, and so it takes a lot longer than your average plugin to extract. But now that it is extracted, let's see if Terrain Tool knows anything about it. Remember, if you've added a plugin that you need to go ahead and click that green arrow. You know what? Those I use the left side of my screen inherently much more than I use the right side. I'm gonna move those little widgets on over. There we go. Oops. Okay. So remember, if you add a plugin while the game is running, click that green arrow to load it on up. Study says, I wonder if it's possible to replace the vanilla maps with upscaled versions. They look pretty awful today, they think. Not sure if LOTRO supports direct file replacements like that. I don't know if you could crack open the files to do such a thing. But I do suspect that things like more maps would give you a plug-in way of doing such a thing. Oh man, I do not do enough of this. Whoops. Well, that's interesting. So you can do a search. That's pretty cool. No matching NPCs. All right, so we need an NPC name. Ermintrude. Okay. Ermintrude. Search. All right, I'm going to say that that's not available. So I'm not going to worry about it right now. But I'm thinking that there is a radar here. So if one wanted to make a composite map out of that, one could. One's not going to do that on this stream, though. So that's okay. So what we want to do is go ahead and start recording details that in English that we can then come back to later. So this is going to be a windy walk through Wistmead. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and start by adding an English name, and that's just going to be character for character what we're looking for in the quest log, so exactly the name of it. Okay, and then we have this key that we're going to be able to use on over here. So we should go ahead and call out Wistmead. And I'm going to redo how these brackets are done sometime, but not yet. And that's challenging wheat, that's cheat of the wheat, and that's haunted burrow. Okay, good. So within the quest strings structure, we can just describe what's going to show up in the Festival Buddy window. And at this point, it's just going to be, let's see, pick up quest from, pick up quest from Wallaric, Goldworthy, and Wistmead. 2. Okay. Talk to Ermentrude Haybank and Wistmead. Talk to Halenard Bunce and Wistmead. Talk to Iris Tunnelly and Wistmead. I don't know, I'm going to guess return to Wallaric. So, let's go ahead and take a look at what that would be. So we've got our string, or a limited string, and that's all we need. Let's come on back in to our plugin manager. That's the wrong one. And reload Festival Buddy. Great. Okay, and we're going to come into here, and this is instead going to be a windy walk. Great. So 1, pick up a quest from Waldrick Goldworthy. Should probably spell that right. In Wistmead. Okay. We'll start by talking to Ermentrude Haybank, who is just over here. It's impressive, isn't it? The wheat shifts in the night. No, it shifts at 10 a.m. That's not the night. Okay. Talk to Halenard Bunce and Iris Tunnelly. Well, Iris is right here. I bid you welcome. Okay. And Halenard Bunce is over here. And talk to... Okay. So that was it. And that unlocks the ability to go into the maze. Awesome. Now, that was pretty generic text. And so what we can do is in Wistmead buy the Tanglecorn maze. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Talk to Ermentrude Haybank next to the maze. Talk to Halenard Bunce and talk to Iris Tunnelly. Near, what's his name? Wallaric. And talk to Halenard Bunce. Instead of in Wistmead, he is by the tents. By the tents. Okay, that gives us a little bit more information in case we're, if we're using this for that, we are presumably having a little bit of a challenge. So, Haybank next to the maze, Bunce by the tents, Iris Tunnelly near Wallaric, return to Wallaric. Okay, so that gives us at least a little bit of information. Now we can also annotate it a little bit more. We already have some ideas of that. One-time quest to unlock the Haunted Burrow. Cool, that's a good starting point. But it's really the one-time quest, not a chain, to unlock the Wistmead quests. Okay, one-time quest to unlock the Wistmead, to unlock the rest of the, is that too long? One-time quest to unlock the rest of the Wistmead quests. Great. Here's what to do. Done. Alright, so that's the essence of adding a quest to the Festival Buddy. Add it to strings, and then add what you want to show up in quest strings. And if we decide later to add some sort of a map that we can show during this, that's easy enough to add in. We just add map and the link to the image, and we're done. Actually, it all shows up on this section of the radar, doesn't it? Hmm. Okay, let's consider that. So if we accept this one, this quest cannot be cancelled. Oh. Oh, promise of treats and trickery, of course. I don't care if that can't be cancelled. I'm going to finish it. Okay, what else? Treats or trickery. Okay, that's fine. And then clear this one out of here. A spirited harvest. Thanks, Rosa Hornblower. Okay, so you know what? We can go ahead and make our own map here. So we want, I would prefer not to have my little red arrow there. That's okay, we can fake it. So we're going to go ahead and open up a new image manipulation program. And go ahead and pull in that radar image. This is a poor man's version of getting this kind of information. So we're going to go ahead and accidentally close the thing. Grab these. And if we want to be really thorough, we could come in down here a little bit. Grab that. And then come on over here a little bit. Great. Cool. So, if one were so inclined, one could overlay these on top of each other to remove things we don't care about, to get further extent than the radar allows and whatnot. So sure, why not? We have plenty of time today. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and reduce the transparency of what we're working with. So it's a little bit easier to tell when things are pretty close to being lined up. Now, it's helpful to have some ideas of what you're looking for. So this path here, this curvy path here, or the rings stand out really nicely, are going to tell us when we're pretty much where we want to be. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. So one would ask, why would we do that? Well, it means that we can come on into this layer and delete that arrow right there. And the region underneath it will be used instead. We can come in and delete that arrow just in case. But it doesn't matter. So once you've deleted the things you don't want from a layer, for instance, maybe I don't want this. Well, it doesn't matter. It's actually in both of them, I think. Oh no, I just was selected on the wrong thing. So you can delete parts from one layer and get something from the next layer. Now, it might be helpful if we just delete everything that is not what we want here. So if we go ahead and do a selection here, and then invert that selection and just delete that, that gives us just the map bit. But we still have this little arrow here. Don't want that. Okay. Oh no, I had those blue things. I don't want that. I'm gonna have to consider starting over again. If I clear everything except for quest, That'll be better for what we're doing. And we can do this a little bit more systematically anyway. Okay, so that's just an example of what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and delete these layers though. Hey, Rosenblum's back. She's wearing a mask. I thought she said she didn't do this. Okay. So, copy that, come on in. And instead of doing them all first, I'm going to go ahead and do what we were looking at before, which is I've enabled an expand from center option here just to make it a little bit easier to capture what I'm trying to do. I don't like those brown arrows, but I like everything else around them. So I'm going to keep that, slide this over. Same thing, select, we're going to go ahead and invert that, delete everything else. And that's our first map section right there. So we want to go ahead and extend this up a little bit. So we want to go ahead and move underneath these rings. And we're going to do the same thing. Grab that, and go ahead and paste that in, new layer, and do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and cut out everything, select invert, cut out everything else, and that will let us overlay this and take the best of both. So I'm going to do a rough overlay right here. It's about there. Okay, that's really honestly about as much as we need, probably. How many pixels do we have here? That is great. That's probably more than we need. So let's come on in here. And same thing, we're going to go ahead and drop that transparency of the top layer down so we can get a better sense of, are we overlaid where we want to be? And the answer is yes. Yes, now we are. So that means we can start getting rid of things that we don't care about. Now, we can see there's a kind of a brown edge at the, where the edge of the radar was coming into play. Don't really like that, so I actually want to trim these just a little bit more than I already did. Okay, so image, no, sorry, select, invert, just to crop out those little bits, and do I feel like it needs it over here? Not yet. I don't feel like that. Okay, so crop out the things we don't want. So that little arrow there, this little arrow up there. Well, if I do that, it's going to stick around. So we might crop it differently. This little arrow here, great. This big arrow here, awesome. And these arrows out here are probably going to get cropped. So cool. Well, we can go ahead and make a new layer. This is going to be the usable space. And that's going to be 262 by 147. And we can actually make that a mostly opaque filled rectangle. And that'll give us a sense of how much space we have to work with. Now we can see we're doing great, but we're missing some little bits up closer to the maze. So let's go ahead and fill those in right now. So the upper extent here, yep, if I'm standing at the corner, I'll definitely be able to nix that arrow. So let's go ahead and do that. Grabbing this. I kind of cut the edge off there. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and call that 3. Julian says, just for info, the map of Wistmead seems to be out of range of more maps. Coordinates are super out there. 70 north, 113 west. More maps limits are 25 north, 105 west. Well, why on earth would it limit itself to enough to go up to Forchel and Angmar? Come on. Yeah, the in-game coordinates of Wistmead are bonkers. 70 degrees north. Bearing in mind that Forchel, if you're up in Surrey Kyla, we are at 21 degrees north. And in fact, you switch from north to south in Forchel. And so when you come on into southern tips of Eriador, you're at like 89 degrees south. At which point you realize, oh yes, these numbers don't mean anything because you can go to 95 degrees south pretty easily. So that's fun. And then if you switch on over into other areas, you get other coordinate systems because you kind of have to. To Gondor. All right, let's get into Western Gondor, Cape of Belfalas, and we're back to 90 degrees south. So for anyone who didn't know, the coordinate systems of the different geographical regions do not correlate to each other at all, which is kind of historically accurate. If you think about like local time for villages before you had standardized time, yeah, every village has its own noon, and that's fine. But it can get you into trouble if you're not expecting it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and come into 3 here. Same thing, we're going to expand from the center. If you hold down Shift, you get a nice perfect circle. So we do. And select invert, get rid of all that. Awesome. So now we have a place to put this. We're going to, again, do the transparency trick so that we can more easily line things up. This quest ring is going to be a great way to do that. All right, that looks about right. Let's undo the transparency, and then if we hide it, it's pretty close to being good. We did keep too much of that border, though. I'm really bad about that. I want to keep it all. So we're going to come on in here. Whoops. What on earth? All right, select invert and get rid of it. Okay, that looks pretty good. There's something going on there. Not sure what, but we get rid of it. So we are going to come in and nix this little arrow here. Awesome. And now we can see we're doing really well. We just need to fill in the upper right corner, and we have everything we want for our homegrown map. Agatha says, yeah, that would be just about as crazy as different countries or states having different implementations of daylight saving time. Yeah. One of my favorite examples of the bunkiness of daylight saving times, it comes, I think, from Arizona, which contains several Indian tribal nations. And there are discrepancies between Arizona, which doesn't follow daylight saving times, except for some of the Indian areas that do, except for parts of those that don't, and so on. And so you can be having to reset your clock multiple times in a short drive across some sections of Arizona. Okay, so that's going to be number 4. And same thing, we're going to trim out the stuff we don't need. We're going to be more aggressive about that because that dark circle starts earlier than I think. Select, invert, crop, done. Okay. So we're going to use those 2 rings to make sure we line this up correctly. And since we only want this for the extent out here, I'm actually going to consider having 1 and 2 above those. We'll see. That's probably a bad idea. All right, we do have another red arrow that's poking through here because of that layer change, so we're going to come through here and delete it. Yeah, 1 and 2's rings also, that edge of the radar starts earlier than I think. Okay, so that's a homegrown manner of getting something suitable for a map for Festival Buddy. And so what you can do is then we have overlapping areas here, so we want to make sure we don't go too far up. I am curious about this little arrow here, though. Do we have something behind it? Well, where does it come from? It comes from number 1. So delete from 1 and we're good. So we have a little bit more space that we can use here. I like catching the maze, but I also like catching that road, because that road's when where you first zone in. So probably something like that. So at that point, we can dial down the opacity of that. Or just change the visibility. Alright, so if I do a copy visible, am I going to get just the thing that I want here? Nope. Okay. So, man, I would love a select from layer. As far as I can tell, I'm missing it if it exists. Okay. So we've got just the area that we want, so we can go ahead and edit copy visible. And that'll give us just what we want. So image, crop to content, fantastic. Now, what we don't have is information corresponding to our quest advice here. So that was when to walk through Wistmead. So what we would like is, let's see, 14, that's a good size. 1, just next to there. Talk to that, 2. What's her name's quest ring isn't showing up. I could have sworn she had something. Oh, she's got 2 of them? Mm-hmm. Why didn't she show up? Well, hardly matters, because we can do the same thing, where we go ahead and grab that. That is so weird. Why didn't she show up? Oh well. So, 5. And again, we can go ahead and, within this layer, get rid of that, and then go ahead and position this just where we need it to be. That looks good. Okay. I don't like how that rain looks slightly more faded. Oh well. So, same thing. We go ahead and select what we have here, copy that visible, and come on into, you know what? I like doing the numbers over here, actually. So we're going to go ahead and text. Now, one of the things you can do, if you're happy with the positioning of all these, you can merge these into a single layer. I don't know that I feel the need for that, but just to show it, if we go ahead and merge down, merge down, merge down, merge down, we then have a composite radar view. And this is a single manipulatable thing now that we can drag the whole thing around. Well, that's funny. Okay, now there's stuff here that I didn't realize was there. We're going to go ahead and just crop that to selection. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Interesting. Well, I don't know what that is, but it's gone. Okay. So within our usable space, we also want to go ahead and text. Go ahead and make that. So we have our 1. We have our 2. R3, and R4. Now, I like ordered numbered lists that don't go out of order, but I do wonder, like, should this be 1, 5, or should it just be 1 return to Walrick since we're referencing something on the map? And my default is it should be 1. So we're going to come back in here, into here, and say that is 1 return to Walrick. Okay. So at that point, we have to ask, are we happy with that? And the answer is, yeah, probably. Where do we zone in here, though? Because it would be neat if that extended. If our map included that. I'm guessing it's going to be too far away for us to care. All right, pointing to Wistmead, where do we come out? Okay, we come out here, which, yeah, that's the far extent of that. So that's going to be well off the map, and that's okay. When you get here, there's only 1 quest train that matters. That'll be fine. Okay, so I like that. We're going to go ahead and do a selection. That matches the size of that, so we get something that's exactly the right size. And we go ahead and copy visible, and we can see the result of our work here. Okay, map. That all looks good, except for that 1 ring that the transparency is a little messed up on, and we're just going to accept that and improve it later if we care. So this map, we can go ahead and save that. We're in source file, quest maps, Harvestmath, and this is Wistmead. And that way, if we want to come back and change things, fix it up, whatever, we don't have to recreate the whole thing. And then this thing, we're going to go ahead and export. So this was a windy walk through Wistmead, and we're going to go ahead and come on in, resources, quest maps, Harvestmath, and this is windy walk. What? Oh, image manipulation program is a little wonky sometimes. And there was probably a better way to recover from that, but that's okay. So this is a windy walk through Wistmead. Okay, and we're exporting to a TGA. If I had pressed the export button, now it's going to ask you how you want it to be exported. Just take the default results, they work fine, or default options. Okay, so we can go ahead and add that map to this. And so for that we need a map entry, map equals, and we're going to go ahead and say image equals, and we're going to do something like this. Images Harvestmath dot a windy walk through Wistmead. That doesn't exist, so we're going to get a little squiggly, but we're going to make it exist. All right, and we're going to take all this and substitute in our own values. Okay. Let's go ahead and have documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, Cube plugins, Festival Buddy 2, resources, quest maps, Harvestmath, and then we can easily copy that. Don't type what you can copy paste. Nope, I selected the wrong one. So we have added that image to our images array. We can reference that in the map here. Let's give that a look. Unload, load. That was the wrong place to put it. How embarrassing. Is it in strings? It's supposed to be image, not map. Ah. Of course. And is image nested? It is not. So let's come on in here and fix that. Great. Okay, so we can see if we pick up a windy walk through Wistmead, we're going to go ahead and have a little map here. 1, pick up the quest from Willaric. Presumably you've already done that, so it will look like this. And then 2, 3, and 4, and back to 1, return to Willaric. Sweet. So let's go ahead and commit our changes. Let's remember to do that and be nice to ourselves. Added windy walk for Wistmead. So that's going to be the source image, the actual exported image, and that's going to be Go ahead and add that while we're at it. We've added the image. All that's good. All that's good. It's fine. Okay. That half translucent ring is going to bother me, but the problem is I'm not entirely sure why it's happening. Oh, I wonder if that layer was just semi-translucent. Well, it's too late now because I merged them all together for demonstration purposes. New ring. Okay. So, yes, that's what it was. I left it semi-transparent after I did the position finding. Okay. My goodness. That's not quite what I wanted. I had this working in my other one where I was able to use the layer and select copy visible, and the extent of the layer was the extent of what I was copying. Not sure what I did wrong to mess that up, but that's okay. Great. So we're going to go ahead and export, unload, reload, and fixed it. Okay. Fix your transparencies before you merge. Okay, so that's how we would do that. And if we wanted to even zoom in even more, we could have gone ahead and zoomed this layer, or this image first, and then moved on with that. But this is fine. And we're going to call it good. So we're going to go ahead and close these, discard that, just say that changes, and we're good. Now, Tillian thinks they gave me the wrong German names. The non-cheat version of the Tanglecorn in German is called something else, and the cheat one is something. Yeah, I'm going to be double checking as well within the data files to make sure I get that right. But let's go ahead and make a note. Let's see. Non-cheat, Rising Klavier. That's what I see. And Der Weisentrick. Okay. No article for the challenge? Let's take a look at this. All right. Javier. Okay. Yep, we can see it is Javier with no article, and Trick with der. Fantastic. I hope that makes sense in German. I would have expected one for each, one article each. Cool. Okay. But yeah, I tend to go back to the source and make sure I copy paste as best I can for German and French, because I'm not going to know whether it's correct or not. Cool. So, fixed, semi-transparent, quest ring. Wistmead, Windy Walk. Or Little Redhead has some suggestions. Challenging wheat. You know what? It is that way in English too, though, because we have challenging wheat and cheat of the wheat, don't we? Anyway, that's consistent-ish. Cool. So, just as a note to myself, updated notes on German translations. We're going to go ahead and commit that, and we're good. Okay, so now we are able to pick up challenging wheat. But we do not know which challenging wheat it is. So, when we select challenging wheat, the first thing we need to do is figure out which one it is. And if we don't know that, we need to launch a window or launch a dialogue, something for selecting that. Or maybe when you select Harvestmath. I don't know, some people might never do this for Harvestmath, so probably just wait until someone actually tries to do one of the cheat or challenging wheat. Okay. So when we select challenging wheat, we need to do, so let's start diagramming stuff out. Oh, yeah, okay. Nope, that's the wrong one. Different messaging system. All right, I think I was sent some stuff and I didn't actually look at it. Yes. Let me go ahead and grab those. Okay. I did grab those. Okay. So, parchment cheat, parchment challenge, great. That's what we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to wander on into the maze and get a sense of how close to the edge we are. And the answer is very close to the edge. And if I come on over here, yeah, we can see our center dot hits basically the edge. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and start manipulating these maps here. Alright, these were sent by Garlo, community member Garlo, over on the wiki. Thank you so much. And I'm not going to want those here. I'm going to want a new one. Or something. File. Open. Let's go to our downloads. Let's grab Tanglecorn. Challenge. and open Tanglecorn cheat. Cool. Now, normally this might have a background, and that might be filled in, which is why that text over there is not very readable. So you might picture it being uploaded like this. Possibly, nope, probably not like that. I think it was more of a neutral gray last time I was looking. However, we do not need it for our purposes. So what we want is starting basically just inside this, not including that outer layer. We want a roughly square, or exactly square thing. And we are looking for 500 by 500 pixels, I believe. I can double check that. Great. 500 by 500 is how it's going to fit in there. And so we either need the whole thing and to get our coordinates from the outside, which is risky because we can't really tell that we're working right until after we've done it, or we get it from the inside like this. So we're probably going to do that. And then we're going to resize this thing so it is 500 by 500. So let's go ahead and, what on earth? Copy that. Where did my selection go? We can zoom in and make sure we have a sense of, okay, just the very edge there. Okay, so if we copy that and we bring it into a new image, and again, it just needs to be 500 by 500, so that's going to be the outgoing image. Map. And we copied the wrong thing. We copied from the wrong layer, I should say. Map. We're going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so we can see this is too large, so we're going to scale layer that, and we're not going to keep the proportionality, because we want that to end up being 500 by 500. So it's going to squish one direction slightly different than the other, and that's okay. Okay, do we know what that was? That was challenge. So that's challenge 1. Cool. And we can do that with each of them, but we're going to start with this just to make sure it looks good. So resources, quest map, harvest math, and this is Tanglecorn challenge 1. Awesome. So in the code, let's see, we want to go ahead and come on into challenging and cheat. We're going to see challenging 1, we're going to say. Okay, so this is going to be challenging wheat 1. And what we want to do is make sure that we have a /LOC command bound where we need it. So shortcut space 61 space /LOC. That's going to work better. Okay, and what we can see right there is that does not work. Now, does it work because our not work because our coordinates are off? Possibly. So let's go ahead and get the precise coords plugin going. Loading up LOTRO plugin compendium, downloading precise coordinates. It's a lovely little tool by Burrow. And before we load it, we do want to go in and change it. It gives out 2 decimal digits of precision, and for something fiddly like this, I like a little bit more than that. So we're going to come on in to plugins, Burrow, and just edit the precise chords file just in your favorite text editor. We're looking for %2, I think. %.2, and we want it to be %.4. And there's 2 of them, 1 for each of the 2. All right, that's it. then you can go ahead and load precise chords, and then anytime you do a /LOC, you'll get the precise coordinates of that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look. We can see our southernmost position is 70.8810, and we want to make sure those are the corner coordinates that we are using here. This is Harvestmath, so the south, yeah, okay, we can see that we were doing some stuff to try to account for the fact that we had not cropped the images correctly. Okay, here we are at the westmost expanse. Remember that this is a negative number, so west equals minus that. Okay, so we can see, perfect. Now that we're at the westmost and at the southmost, oops. Southmost is going to be a little bit of a trick because we do not want to stop rendering just because we're really close to the edge. Okay, that's fine. And then we're going to go ahead and grab those for the other sides as well. What day is this? That would help if I had the right map. So, all right, I'm all over the place, but let's go ahead and export the other maps here so that each of these is as correct as it's going to be. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and select copy layer. Sorry, yeah, edit copy visible. That's maze 2. And that is maze 2 of challenge. So we're going to come on in here. And that's challenge 2. And we're going to go ahead and layer, scale that layer. Again, 500, do not link the two because we need to stretch it a little bit different for each. But then we can go ahead and export that as Tanglecorn 2 challenge. Awesome. Just keep doing it. Okay, that looks good. So we're going to go ahead and copy visible. Bring that in. Challenge 3 for our records layer. Scale that layer. Huh. Tellurian says, by the way, we came across a bug in the emote collection panel. If you try to preview a hero pose epic on a river hobbit, perhaps only female mariners, the animation stops and freezes the client. Use escape to end it. Fantastic. You've already reported it. Well, that's fun. I know they have river hobbit specific animations for some things. I wonder how that came to be. Alright, remember we're not linking those two proportionally, and scale. And export as 3 challenge. Yes. And we can see the old versions of these had both the challenge and the cheat, and we only want to use the one, make it super easy, because we can be selective like that. Okay, that looks good. So, copy visible, come on in. Same thing. When you're doing something like this, there can be a lot of repetitive aspects to the data collection, or in this case, the art production. So hopefully you're a person who likes repetition, to some extent. Okay, that looks Well, let's bring it up a little bit. Okay. Final one there, copy visible, bring it in, and that's going to be challenge 5. Now, we're going to go ahead and scale that layer. 500 by 500. Awesome. Export as. Well, that's weird. Well, now I'm worried that I didn't export challenge 4 correctly. So, challenge 4. And we'll redo challenge 3 because I'm worried that I exported. Oh, no, I can't do it like that. Okay, that's 5. This is 4. Export to 4. This is 3. Export as Tangle challenge 3. Okay. Great. So we can double check what we just did. Challenge 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are great. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and, am I going to save that? Maybe. I'm going to save it somewhere. Tanglecorn maps. Okay, so we have all 5 of these, but we can go ahead and ask ourselves, or recreate from last time, what does it look like to distinguish the different maps? And so, oops. When you enter the maze, you should be able to look to your left, look to your right, and distinguish what your which map you're in. So we have left and forward our walls, and we have right and forward our walls. Therefore, left and forward, yep, that's good. Left and forward, right and forward, therefore we're in maze number 4 today. Great. So we're just going to hard code that in the code for right now. Okay. So we can double check. We have right and wall. We have, here, I'm going to move that over here. Left and wall. So that's good. Now we can navigate through here a little bit better. I'm a little concerned that the coordinates are not right. And so we're going to continue on that path of fixing the coordinates. Also, what on earth? Oh, that was a left and right. Okay, we're probably on maze 5 then. What did I say? Yeah. Okay, that makes much more sense. As much as anything in this maze does. Okay, so we're going to go fix the rightmost coordinate, the eastmost, and we can see we're getting very consistent 113, 3603. Okay, that's our easternmost. Remember, this is west, so it is still negative, even though it's further east than our other negative. And for ease of navigation, we can go ahead and reload those two. And that's working really well there. So we can come through here, this broken part. Nope. Because we want the northernmost extent, so just going through the maze is certainly a way to get that. But we can see that we're more incorrect the further north we get, as expected. Okay, so we can see our northernmost extent pretty reliably is right there. Okay, so unload, load, and we can see we are rendering just off, so we actually want to make that, maybe bump it up to 80. Just give us a few extra steps. There we go. So we can see that was certainly a way to resolve this problem. The other way is to say, instead of 0, 0, and 500 and 500 being the place where your coordinates are, each of your coordinates can be at an arbitrary location pixel-wise on the image. That's more work, so we're not doing that today, but it is a solution to the problem because I love the way those maps look with the boundary around them. I think it's great how it matches a little bit better this boundary map over here. But that requires coding where you can't just assume, over here minus over here, divide by the number of pixels, and you're done. You have to actually figure out how many pixels are there. And we're not going to do that today. But it is doable. It is certainly a thing that we could accomplish later. So if you don't already have it bound, the /loc command is very handy for things like this. And having it bound to something, I have it bound to my mouse wheel, where I tilt my mouse wheel to the right, and I get the /loc. Okay. This is quite the maze today. I think it'd be really neat from a plugin developer's perspective if a plugin could automatically run the /loc command and just do this on a timer where every second we just say, where are we, where are we, where are we, and update yourself on this map. And I think there's a reason why we don't get to do that. Did I actually pick up the quest for doing this? Doesn't look like it.
It timed out.
Oh, yeah. I'm being reminded that there's a timer on that. I was thinking that it was just Cheetah Wheat that has a timer. Unfortunately, /loc produces stuff to the standard chat channel. So if the standard chat channel also goes to your general chat channel, it can just swamp everything else that is coming through. Okay. We have correct enough boundary coordinates for the maze that we can move on with life. Yeah, apparently I failed challenging wheat. Oops.
Like 10 minutes ago.
Like 10 minutes ago. Jillian says, might jam the server if people do, if X number of people do Y number of /loc commands per second. That's an interesting question. I would have assumed that /loc is purely a client question. Where does the client think I am right now? So I would have assumed that the server does not get hit with that question. I don't have a good way to test that because LOTRO is pretty sensitive to disconnects from the server. So if you get disconnection from the server, the way to test that, disconnect, move your character, do a /loc, and see which position you come back with. But the LOTRO client's pretty sensitive to being disconnected, so you just generally are stuck until you get confirmation that you're moving. But no, I wouldn't have assumed that was a server call because /loc doesn't need to be correct, or it doesn't need to be authoritative. You cannot move fast enough for it to matter, and /loc is usually just used for diagnostic purposes, right? Like you do it in your debug reports. Like there's no game capacity that requires it to be correct when you do /loc, or at least correct to like the millisecond instead of just correct to the 5 seconds. If you're doing a bug report, you're just sitting there. So I wouldn't. My default belief, with nothing other than how would I want this to work if I were doing it, is that wouldn't hit the server because, yeah, absolutely. The fewer things that can hit the server, the better. If the client has correct enough information, do not bother the server with it, would be my default way of approaching it. But you are correct, Tillarian. If /loc did hit the servers, that would definitely be a reason to limit it. Julian, I'm not sure what you're saying there. I would definitely believe the server knows, the server's authoritative. So whatever the server thinks your position is, that's what your position is. And that's why you'll sometimes see a rubber banding effect where your client says, I've moved forward, and the server says, no, you haven't. And the client's like, oops, and then snaps you back. I see it mostly when there's not lag concerned. I see it when you are riding a war mount and you collide with objects like fences, where your client was like, yeah, you totally cleared that, and the server was like, no, you didn't. And then the client's like, oh, rewind, and then you're suddenly back behind that fence again. And so, yeah, the server is authoritative on where you are and whether or not you cleared a fence jump, definitely. But whether or not /LOC hits the server, I don't think there's an easy way for us to know, short of firing up Wireshark and seeing, hey, did we see an extra packet go across the network? However, I'm pretty sure in the terms and conditions, they're pretty adamant about not wanting you to sniff the traffic between client and server, so we are not going to go there. Okay, so we have a map. We have a map with correct extents. Let's go ahead and extract out the 5 cheat maps, and then we'll put that away. Okay, so we have a wrong window. Okay, here's the one. So what we want is we want to go ahead and get that same basic idea. We had a 524 by 519 selection. We're going to try to do the same thing. So 524 by 5, what did I say? 18? 519. 524 by 519. Darn it. Not precise enough. 524 by 519. Great. So that's the consistent look into this that we want. Now we could make that square one way or the other, but we're already going to be munching it, so whatever. All right, so we're going to go ahead and copy visible and bring it on in here to cheat 1. So layer, scale layer, again break that binding, 500 by 500, scale that and export. And that's going to be cheat number 1. Yes, please replace it. And once again, Garlo, thanks for re-rendering these with each path separate. Not sure if you're watching. Julian says, that's why I thought it would be a server touching command, since it would be a no purpose if the /LOC in our bug reports is just the made up client location instead of a server location. I hear that. Because we can see during gameplay that if you move in a way that the server doesn't expect, you do it temporarily and then you snap back. I mean, it's just what we call it, kind of like a rubber band effect. And either because of a network issue where a communications issue, could be network, could be server load, could be whatever, where you said, I move 5 steps north, and the server's like, hey, your current position is here. And so there definitely feels like there's a periodic, hey, here, the client says, I move, and periodically the server's like, here's where I think you are. And so I would expect the /LOC to be a cached version of that server saying, here's where I think you are. Or would I? I don't know. I mean, this would be possible to test on a war mount, actually. Because war mounts trigger this behavior so easily, at least if you're me, where you're running across landscape and you jump over an obstacle and then you snap back. And so if you are hammering that /LOC command, just bind it to 1 or something, and just be hammering it, you should be able to tell when you run past. My prediction is that your client would continue to report you moving, and then it would report you back to where you ran into the obstacle that your client thought you cleared, but the server didn't. So that's my prediction. You would continue to, /LOC would report the client's belief that you continue to move up until the server says no, and then /LOC would report you stuck behind that obstacle. This character doesn't have a war mount, so I'm not going to be testing that right now, but that's how I think you could test that. So if anyone out there has a war mount and is inclined to hammer the /LOC command, let me know how it goes. In the meantime, let's go ahead and grab cheat number 2. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to copy visible. Go ahead and name that cheat 2. And layer, scale that layer. Scale, and we're going to export that. Tanglecorn 1, cheat. No, 2, cheat. Yes. It's not a big deal if you overwrite the wrong one. You just have to go export it again. For anyone who does audio design is listening, audio design for SG, I like how Wistmead sounds. I like the kind of corrupted music. I like the ambient effects. All right, we're going to copy visible. Going back in. That's cheat 3. And layer, scale layer. Okay, copy visible. And there's our cheat 4. Export as. Very cool. And then finally 5. All right, copy visible, and that's the last one. Scale that layer. And export it. Cool. So that is all of that preparation. Now go ahead and finish saving this. Exit out of there. This was an unchanged file. We can go ahead and get rid of that. Unchanged here, get rid of that. And we're back to Haunted Burrow. Okay. So we have all the maps we need. We could see that if we are looking at Tanglecorn 5 today, then we could look at the Tangle 5 cheat when we load up the other one, and we should see the same fundamental map offset by a pixel. That's going to bother me, but that's okay. We're going to see that same fundamental map, but instead of the long path, we see the cheat path. Okay. So we have a need of a couple of things to do. Okay, update the maps with corners that match where we can get, or update the code to allow us to express corner. Yep, yeah, we're doing the easy one. Done. Need a way, manual change, clear the current number, and quest. Garlo had an interesting thought that maybe the reason people are having trouble correlating gourds and chords is that they might change at the 3 a.m. standard server reset time, whereas the mazes themselves might change at 10 a.m. And so you might be getting overlap between one days and the next days. So I'm going to hope that Garlo keeps an eye on that. I might keep an eye on it this next week too, because we have less going on this week than we did last week, but not by a lot. But the chords and gourds, I'm not too worried about right now. Those feel like easier quests once you know where you are in the maze. But we'll see. Okay, so we need to ask the user to identify their maze number. And we need to be able to tell that we have this value, or be able to use the lack of the value to prompt the user. So, cheat of the wheat, challenging wheat, either of these we want to prompt, hey, what maze is it today? And the way we're going to do that is either let them select or present, probably in simplified format, what do you see immediately on the left? And we might even give the whole view because of that confusion that I had earlier. So immediately on the left, I see a left wall, a straight, and a gap. On the right, I see a left wall, a right wall, and a gap here where the right wall continues. And so I think I would probably draw that out. I could see actually just cropping that out of these maps, except they have that padding on top of them. I can make do without that for right now. Okay. So that would be the next thing is... So we need to crop out start of maze for identification from each of the possibly cheats. There'd be less to hide there. Cheat maps. Yeah, Tillerian says, would it be possible that if we had a correct maze once, just add the day since module 5? Yeah, that is exactly my goal, Tillerian, is store the server time and the map, and make use of our knowledge that we know that at 10 o'clock server time, the map changes. So, have a way for them to override it, certainly, but once you have set it, we do not plan to ask again that festival. Possibly plan to ask again the next year. I haven't settled on that. I think probably yes until we prove it does not change, because each of the servers can have a different value. My guess would be that it's based off of how many days it's been since the server came online. And so for different servers, that's going to be different value. Just they didn't turn them all on at the same time. So I think my hypothesis is it's a steady value for a server, but it can change around. Okay. Do not need that. Thank you. So yes, that is a goal, Tillerian, is to hope that the value is stable enough that once we know it, we don't have to ask every day. We can just, for that festival, keep subtracting the current value from then and see what's up. We might even do some fancy math when we say, oh, you've selected it. What's the current time? Okay, the start of that date would have been 10 a.m. the same day. Or previous day, and then therefore store maybe the this maze started at this time, so we can just subtract current from that to figure out how many increments from there. So that's a plan. I think I'm going to take a quick break here since we're doing basically half again as long or maybe twice as long stream as normal. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to start designing the figure out what maze it is today dialogue. Cool. All right. Do I have a be right back? I've got to be right back. All right. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are back, and we're going to go ahead and start creating a dialogue, and I think it's just going to be the equivalent of radio buttons, right? Where we present each of the 5 possible openings here. Oh, is that mouse cursor not showing? Okay, I'm seeing it showing better now. Okay. Yeah, so showing each of the starting things here, maybe without those little dots, and asking them to say, "Hey, what do you see?" Okay, so back into the editor we go. So open recent Tanglecorn maps. Great. Let's do this. I want to make a new image. 500 by 500 is going to be much bigger than we need, probably. But that's okay. Okay, so we're going to start with first cheat. And I guess ideally, we would start out... Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2... I'm being told there's a cat behind me. Fun. Okay. Whoops. So there's a Casper right there. Whoop. Fantastic. Okay, so let's start off by saying what would it look like to take a 3 by 3 chunk out of these maze images and put that over here. So this is 1. This is 2. And I'm probably going to be saving these as individual files, but just as a starting point. Okay, whoops. 3. Well, that's funny. Alright, 1 goes there, 2 goes there, 3 goes there. Let's show 4. Okay, well, we do see a problem that sheets 3 and 4 are showing up the same. So we're going to need to fix that. Alright, what do we actually have? We have sheet 3 going up and to the left. Sheet 3 does do that, sheet 4 does not. So it looks like we mixed that up while we were grabbing it. Alright, it was something like 524 by 519. Alright, we still have that. Alright, we'll call that good. Alright, so copy visible. And we're going to come back into here. And that should be 4. 4 should be going in that direction. Sheet 4.1. Alright, and that layer, we need to go ahead and scale that layer to 500 by 500. And for some reason, put it on top here. Okay. Alright, so that definitely looks like a better. We're going to delete 4. That's the new 4. And we're going to go ahead and export that to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, Cube Plugins, that's me, Festival Buddy 2, Resources, Quest Maps, Harvest Math, and that's Cheat 4. Okay, and in the meantime, layer, scale layer, so we need 292 by 82 approximately, because our selection went away. 292 by 82. Lord Zach says, hello, hi. Welcome to Harvestmath in the Festival Buddy plugin. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and paste that. That's our 4. And we're going to bring it on down here. And finally, our 5. Okay. Sure. And we'll bring that on here. Okay, so other than those dots being there, and that's a temporary problem, this is kind of what I had envisioned. When you move to here, what do you see to your left and to your right? It's a bit bigger than what we need. Lord Zach says, oh no! Well, hopefully it's not that terrible. Okay, so what we want to do is, I wonder if there's a clone tool in GIMP. Clone tool. Cool. Clone. Great. Set a source image first. Oh, I do not know how to use the clone tool. Set a source image first. Okay, there we go, with control apparently. Well, that's a funny way to do it. Okay, so Boslowski says, "Hello, how are you doing? You're good. Awesome. I am also doing well. How come 1 and 2 look the same? What a great question. That shouldn't be that way. Thanks for letting me know I got something wrong. All right, 1 and 2 should look different. But do they look different? All right. 1 goes that way, 2 goes that way. Looks like I did not correctly change which layer I had selected, which is a classic problem for me in this program. I will be on the wrong layer and I'll hit copy, and it doesn't. The program does not care what you are thinking you want it to copy from. It's whatever layer is selected, unless you do something like copy visible. And so if you don't update which layer you're pointing at, you can definitely run into this problem. Thanks for calling that out. Okay, so do we care? Actually, we should declare 1 dot fixed. Now, the sort of a simple cheesy way of doing this is to just say patch, copy a paste, a section here, and then just paste it over there, right? And if the area is generic enough, that's fine, right? I was thinking a clone tool might be a little bit more reasonable, but the real solution is to maybe reach out to Garlow and say, hey, can you render them without the paths at all, or just use one of the many other maps out there. Lord Zach says, I noticed it too, but didn't know I just got here. Yeah, fair enough. Don't you have another map with the same section without dots? Well, that's actually a good question. What do I have? I have the cheat maps. I've got the challenge maps. Did Garlow send me something with no paths at all? That'd be kind of cool. Let me check and see what was sent to me. All right, Garlow, what'd you send? It's a zip file. Hey, good point. I do have that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open in downloads in the, whatever we just called that, Tanglecorn maze. Cool. What a much better solution to this problem. Thank you. Okay, so that's the start, and 1, 2, oh, hey. 3 over. And what do we have here? That's 300 by 100. That's a nice round number. All right, so we're going to go ahead and copy that. And you know what? Get rid of all of that. That was a terrible idea. What was I thinking? And instead, bring in these. Now, whoops. Don't need that. This is, we're going to hope, map number 1. And we're going to bring that up here. And we're going to go ahead and just drag that over to each one of these. Now, do we know how much of that bottom we had? Pretty much all of it. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3 over here. We have 1, 2, 3 over here. Cool. That's 2. All right. All right, so it's 1, 2, 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3 to the right. Alright, 1, 2, 3, and that, all looks good. 4. And 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3 to the left. That's weirdly different. Sure. Okay. So these were each 100 tall. So we're going to take that image and we're going to say the canvas size is going to be a little bit bigger now to give us some room to work with. But we're not actually intending to render all of these on the same image. I think we'll render each of these out, but this was a convenient place to store them while we were playing around to make sure that we have extracted what we want and it looks reasonable. So, alright, we can see all of them now. My worry is that I'm not 100% sure this is what we want it to be. The thing I was thinking, here, new layer group, original extracts. And then duplicate that. And then cropped. So the thing I was thinking is that I think I'd prefer to show them what they see and nothing beyond. And so for this first one, yes, that would be all of that. So crop to selection, done. Nope. Layer. Great. But for the second one, their image would stop, or their line of sight would stop here. For the third one, their line of sight would also stop here. The fourth one would stop here. And the last one would extend further to the left, but not to the right. So layer crop to selection. So I guess in my head, that makes more sense. Okay, so Lord Zach, good idea on finding a map without the paths on it. I like that. He said he guessed the entrance walls have dots. Not with this set of maps. So awesome. Bill Slowski says 1 and 4 look the same too on whatever I was looking at. Let's... Yes, they definitely start out looking the same on the right. So yes, true. But we can see the actual paths here for the maps 1 through 5 are unique. You can always tell based off of when you walk into the maze, turn left, turn right, what do you see? You always see a wall in front of you, but what you see when you look left and right uniquely determines which map you're in. 3 of them have this top right configuration. Maps 1, 4, and 5 have top right. So if you go and you see top right, or when you're looking at it is left and forward, if you see map walls there, you've eliminated 2 and 3. Otherwise, if you see, left gap, right gap, wall, you're distinctly map 2. If you see wall in front of you, wall to the right, you're definitely map 3. So if you're stuck in one of these 1, 2, and 4, well, when you look to your left, if you just see a long hallway, you're on 1. If you see a wall directly in front of you, you're on 4. And if you see a wall 2 in front of you, you're on 5. So you can always tell which map you're in based on what you see. But there's no way to look in just one of those directions. You have to look both to the left and to the right, and then you know which one of the 5 you're in. And of course, the goal is to remember your choice, to remember what you said. Okay, I think I'm happy with these cropped versions, but we want to render the whole width because life gets a lot easier if all the images are the same size. So what we want to do is make a new image that is 300 by 100. And we're going to go ahead and hoist out the cropped versions and center them there. Center them? I don't even know if we're centering them. Let's find out. Okay, so we have a selection. So if we were to copy visible from that selection, would that work? Maybe. So this is 1. So if we were to go ahead and take that and slide it on down, and copy visible again, then we would get 2. And it's offset slightly, which bothers me, but this can always be fixed later. It won't be, but it can. I mean, it probably will be. But it could be an extra. Like, I can't let perfection get in the way of actually like shipping a working plugin in time for people to use it if possible. So we're going to copy visible here, and that's going to be our number 3. And it's in the right position. So the goal is that these are automatically kind of centered. They're full width images, but they have transparencies so that we can just have an image after image after image, and they all kind of line up, as well as my crops have allowed for. Okay, so copy visible, bring it on in, and that's going to be number 4. And finally, we're going to bring this down and get number 5. And I think I had the wrong one selected again. So let's see. That's 1. That's 2. No. That's 3. No. Okay. So each one of those could be correct. Great. So that's 1. The extra long one to the left. Number 2 is very symmetrical. Okay. Number 3 has the red dot for the shortcut path. Number 4 is another pretty symmetrical one. Yep. And number 5 is asymmetric to the left. All right, we're good. So we can now export each of these, and we have a predictable size that we can then insert into our plugin. So we're going to go ahead and first save these as something, just in download for right now. Tanglecorn unique entrance sections. We're going to save that, and we're going to go ahead and start exporting as into documents, LOTRO Online plugins, Cube plugins, Fastbuddy 2, resources, quest maps, harvest math, and there we go. Tanglecorn selection 1. Choose. Tanglecorn choose 1. ID. Tanglecorn ID 1. Okay, we're going to do that. So for each one of these, we're going to hide all the other layers because there's transparencies involved. But other than that, we're just selecting each layer, exporting it. Okay. Export as Tanglecorn ID 4. And 5. Okay, so we have the images that we want to be able to use within the game. Awesome. So, crop out start of maze for identification from each of the sheet maps. Done. Use these to build up the maze selection dialog. Okay. We don't have a way to trigger the dialog opening yet, but I think it would be fun to make some progress on that. We've got about an hour left on the stream here, maybe a little bit less. So we'll see how much progress we can make towards that. So, into the code we go. Now we're going to go ahead and minimize the resources here. We have maze map win. This is such a specific thing. Where do we want to put this? I guess it's just going to be in the main section here. I mean, we have Hobnanigans there, Fireworks Event Quick Slot. Really feels like there should be a festival-specific UI section. But until that day, we're going to make a new file. Okay, so we want to know what this is right up front. So this is Harvestmath Tanglecorn ID win.lua. All right, and the first thing we need to ask ourselves when we're making a new UI is we want to fit in with how the plugin is written. So let's go to other windows and see, are they doing a more object-oriented approach, or are they doing a more not object-oriented approach? And the answer is not. We can see we have a global variable here and functions that act on it. Okay. And that's the maze map win. What about the main win? Same thing. We're creating a global variable and then calling functions to act on it. I mean, we could change that. Nope, don't change horses midstream. We can always come back and fix it later. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull out the previous one as a sample, or as an example to work from. Because making it up from scratch doesn't make sense when you can just imitate. Okay, so we're going to have a function draw Harvestmath Tanglecorn ID win. And what we should expect is, from this method of doing things, is there should be a global variable that we initialize to be the window, and then that's the what all the other functions will assume is the window. This is a very singleton way of looking at things, so you do have to assume that you're going to have 0 or 1 of these things, but you can't have 2 ID selector windows going at the same time. For us, I think that's a reasonable assumption in this case. Okay, so W Harvestmath Tanglecorn ID win parent equals turbine.ui.lotro.window. Now, this is a long thing to type, but we're never going to type it. We have modern tools that are going to do autocomplete for us. But it's not amiss to look at it and say, does it need to be this long? Since we're putting the global namespace, I'm fine with being a little bit more specific than I otherwise would. Water switch. Oh, and I haven't mentioned it in a while, but We have reached the time of the year where Standing Stone Games and streamers are raising money for the Extra Life charity to raise money for children's hospitals. If you have a desire to help out, I am not personally raising money, but my partner in crime here, Little Redhead, is, and you can support her at extra-life.org/participant/Little Redhead, LILREDHEAD. There's a link in the streamer chat there. And if you have the desire to donate money for children's hospitals and would like to help us reach her goal, that would be very spiffing of you. Also, yes, if you do any donations in this manner in support of Standing Stone Games' goals here, do hang on to your confirmation emails so that you can tell Cord, the community manager, how much you donated so he can give you goodies off the loot list. I'm not even sure you have to donate them in Standing Stone Games' name. He's pretty generous with it. He just wants to reward people donating. Check the link in the description there that I'm placing right now. LOTRO.com/news/LOTRO-extra-life-2023-EN will get you the information you need about that. And just saving those off for the YouTube video description. Cool. Okay. Great. So, what we want to do here is craft our ID window with inspiration from how another window works, but not necessarily feeling bound to it. For instance, we know that our selection, if we don't resize them at all, is 300 by 100. So stack up 5 of those, and that's already 500 tall. And that's not including the border of the window. But then again, I mean, that would be the right height. Okay. We will think about this. Anything we're doing dot here, we're just declaring local variables to track things. And we need a lot less of that. So we need set size, map width plus map left border, map right border. That's awesome. All right, we're going to take some of that information. I'm not convinced that those need to be locals, though. Nope. Those do not need to be stored. What about right border? I'm assuming not. Okay. So local, we're going to refactor this on the fly. That's because I don't feel the need to stuff variables or attach this information to this window object just for kicks. Like if we're not going to use it later, there's no need to keep it around. So those are just local variables, and that's fine. But I am double checking to make sure we didn't use it later. Though I could do a global search, that might be a little bit safer. Okay. So bottom border is a local. Okay. Why are you giving me a weird... No, that's fine. Okay. Cool. So we've already made our code a little bit better there because now we can just copy those over and they just will work. Okay. So next thing we have is... I mean, there's a real question about what's up with the rest of these. Okay, we do need to know these things for later, definitely. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and set size, set position, set text, yeah. We want some of that, definitely. Okay, so set size. We don't know what our width is yet, but we can just make some placeholders. Local window width or content width equals, and we know it's 300. Local content height equals 100 times 5. And I guess in the options, we just need a button that launches this thing, and that could be our override. And we just launch it automatically if we don't have the details. Okay, I like it. Okay, so we're going to do content width here, plus the left border plus the right border, and content height plus the top border and the bottom border. Now, these things are pretty consistent if you're using the LOTRO skinning, but I am a little concerned that they're not very universal. So if you have a different skin that uses different amounts of frill here on the edge of your borders, this might not be correct values. But at least we know why these values are here. And so if there's someone who's saying, oh, it's writing on top of my title bar or something, we could dig into that a little bit. All right, we have a set size, we have a set positions. We need positions, and for that we need to go to our settings, which are in global in this one. Okay, and down here in our default settings, we have main win, we have maze map win, cool. We're gonna say harvest math maze ID. That's an idea. It's called Tangle. I'm calling it Tanglecorn, but I don't think I need to be that specific. Maybe that's what I can do to lower that down. All right, and so are these things visible? Starts out not visible. Default position, we'll just screen width minus. That's interesting. Maze map win. Probably should default to a little bit more centered, which is half of it minus half of the default size of the window. Except the default size of the window is 250 plus left and right. So 270, yeah, okay. Or 500 plus left and right. So 540, half that's 270. Great. This one is going to be half of 300 and half of 40, so 190. Okay, that'll be reasonably centered. We don't need an orientation for that, and we do not need auto open. Okay, well, that's interesting. Is that in the options? Auto open map. Oh yeah, it is. That's nice. Cool. Good job, me. I assume. Okay, we have a Harvestmath maze. Okay, so this is where we go ahead and say Tanglecorn. Where did I use Tanglecorn? Okay, so draw Harvestmath maze ID win. Cool. Harvestmath maze ID win. Parent. Okay. These things are all fine. That's all good. Okay. So we nipped it early. So Harvestmath maze ID, we can swap that in for those things, and now this will show up somewhere reasonable. We can also set the text. Tanglecorn ID, and this needs to be localized. Identification. Tanglecorn number, no, just Tanglecorn identification. And now we'll actually have to make this thing a little bit bigger in order to support any labels that we need, but we'll revisit that. Okay, so we need a string for that. Window. I don't know. How are things sorted here? It's not a festival. It's not an error. It could be an other. It's not a dance. It's not a debuff. It's not a quest. It's not buttons or tokens. Options. It's not in the options window. Therefore, it's an other. Yeesh, there's so many fireworks announcements. And Hobnanigans. Yeah, instead of other, that there should have been a Hobnanigans section. What was I thinking? And a farmer's for a section. Oh, I need to be sad with my past self. Okay, this is... I don't know. Okay, this is... window titles. And within window titles, we're going to have Harvestmath Maze ID equals, and then we'll have it within that, English equals, and that's going to be this thing that we just substituted in. Okay. So we need that instead. So we need to call get string on a thing, and that's going to be, is it lang? It is lang. All right. So we have lang. We should have other. We should have window titles, and we should have Harvestmath. And then your mileage may vary. I've been liking the dot notation instead of the quote notation for string keys, but I don't know if there's a right answer or a wrong answer. It just takes a few fewer horizontal characters, and eliminating 4 characters per nesting is nice. Okay, so we have a localized title, awesome, and setting our visibility, awesome. We don't have a way to make it visible yet, but that's coming. Because in our options, we're going to go ahead and have a change Tanglecorn or something. So we do need to open up our options window here in the near future. Okay. Options window. So in our options window, we have quick guide stuff. We have escape key closes the festival buddy window. Sometimes you don't want that. We have map options, and this is a map option. So in map options, there we go. We want to go ahead and map direction drop down. Cool. This is going to be change Harvestmath maze. Change current Harvestmath maze. Okay, so we need a label and a button. Well, that's pretty easy. Local label equals turbine.ui.label. Now we should probably name that something a little bit nicer, and also remember how to spell label in English. So this will be Harvestmath maze ID label. And we're also going to have a local Harvestmath maze ID button. And that's going to be a turbine.ui.window.button. Sorry, ui.lotro.button. That'll be much better. We're also going to make the row taller to support that. And that's kind of the section that we're in. Okay, so what does that look like? First thing you always got to do is parent your control, otherwise you're not going to see them. So we have the, our parent is called options. That's going to be really easy. So Harvestmath maze ID label, set parent options. Awesome. We're going to do the same thing with a button, otherwise we won't see it. Button is set parent options. Cool. So what do we need next? We need text to be on here, and for that we want to go back to our strings. Now we do have an options section, as we saw. So we're going to go ahead and make a section of options called Harvestmath Maze ID equals, and within that, we're going to have a couple of things. Are we? Maybe we'll just call it label and button and be done with it. Okay. English equals change current Harvestmath maze. And for the button, we're going to go ahead and change current. Oh, I don't know. Change. Open window. Something. Yeah, good enough. Let's get it on the screen and then I can decide that I don't like it. So we have some text to put in here. Setting the text is the next thing. So we're going to go ahead and set the text to the label and the button. Set text. This is again going to be a get string call. It's going to be lang options. This is going to be Harvestmath ID label. And we're going to do something very similar down here for the button, calling button, and that's going to be ID button. And so we at least have them here. We do need to set their size and position, otherwise it's not going to be anywhere where we want it. So we're going to go ahead and say set size. I don't know how big this needs to be, but the previous label was like 200 pixels. That's a good start. So let's go ahead and do that. And same thing with setting the position. We can emulate what came before us and say 10 pixels over for indent is good, and then whatever we need. We were doing y+3 before to get it vertically kind of spaced with the dropdown. So we'll reset to just y+0, and see how that works for us. And then for the button, we want to do the same thing. We want to set size and set position. But the button itself doesn't need to be nearly that big. Let's start out with a 50, and it'll be too small, but that's okay. In fact, what do we have for previous buttons? We don't have buttons. That's fine. 20 might be too small for a button. We shall see. And setting position, we want to be 210 over, be a little bit over from this location here. Because we're tying them together, this is a great chance to pull that concept into a variable. So label width equals 200, and we'll set that here and set this to be label width plus 10. And that way, whenever we change how wide that label is, we get it for free, the location of the Harvestmath ID button. Neat. Okay. Now we can go ahead and unload and reload here and just see, is it working? We do say change current Harvestmath maze. We can see the change button's a little bit not big enough. And so we're going to go ahead and come in here to that button, change it to 785. 25 increments are pretty good for buttons. And then this label, we want that width to be more like, well, why not? Another 25. Okay, we can see that's not enough width there. And so, or sorry, not enough spacing between them. Let's go ahead and make that more like 20. And we can see that vertical +3 that we got rid of might actually make sense here as well. That's a little bit more vertically spaced. Okay, this whole thing is taking up a lot of space. 75 might have been a little generous. Let's see if we can get away with 65. The default width of this plugin manager, it's nice if you can keep within that. My next step would just be to make that label multi-line. But this is good enough. So hitting change doesn't do anything. We haven't actually added a handler here. Let's do that now. Let's do something when you do a click. So we're going to assign it to an anonymous function that takes a sender and an args and does something. And this is where we want to go ahead and make this window visible. It'd be helpful to have a function for that. So, harvest maze dwin. We're going to go ahead and say function that set visible new visibility. And the reason that's helpful to be a function is that usually we want to take into account something, like saving off the setting. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same logic here. And the fact that it is the same logic really makes us think that we should be doing something more object-oriented with a common parent, with common logic, and we're not. It makes me sad. All right, and we can see we accidentally wrote an assignment instead of comparison, but we're good here. All right, so we want to update that settings. So that settings, Harvestmath maze visible equals new visibility. Awesome. And go ahead and pass it on through then. Set visible. Great. So, on the maze map, we needed to do something with the rotation of the map. If we were rotating the map, we needed to do something. We don't have to do that here. We're not going to do that here. Topcat says hello, hello in chat. Welcome to Wistmead and the Tanglecorn, or as I like to call it, the Tangle Maze. Because maze is another word for corn. Okay, so we have a set visibility function. We need to make sure this is called from our main function. So let's come on in here and make sure in all of our other drawing of windows, we also draw that. And drawing is not the right word, but initializing it. Are you doing raids or instances? I am technically not doing those things. I am doing plugin development. However, I am doing it within the instance. It's not even an instance. I am doing it within Tanglecorn, which feels like an instance because it has the instance thing over here, but it's not really not. Nope. This is a stream focusing on plugin development for Lord of the Rings Online. And so if you came here hoping to see gameplay, that's not what we're doing today. Sometimes I do. But today we are adding on to the Festival Buddy plugin the concept of what maze you are in. So today I've hard-coded it in that we are in maze number 5. And so if you wanted to do the swift route through the maze, you could easily accomplish that now with the help of this plugin. But what we don't have is the concept of which of the 5 mazes it is today. And so that's what we're working on now, is a window that allows you to tell the plugin which of the 5 mazes it is, so that it can keep track of that from then on. Topcat says, I played this game a long time ago, and I am surprised the game is still up. Well, there's still a large audience for a faithful Lord of the Rings Middle-earth setting for an MMO. You played it on Snowburn back in the day. Well, back in the day, there were more active servers than there are right now. Back in, I'm going to forget the year, but I don't need to remember it because it's in the deed tracker plugin. There was a server consolidation. And that happened in 2015. And so a bunch of different servers were consolidated down into the fewer number we have now. So Snowburn in 2015, among with a number of other servers for population size and health, I assume, got collapsed down. Oh, you know, and you lost everything. Technically, I think backups of characters that were on those servers still exist somewhere, but the ability to extract that information and plug it into the modern game is lacking. Unfortunately, it's hard to recover that. Fortunately, Lord of the Rings Online is a very forgiving game when it comes to progression, and it is quite possible to cover a lot of the early game at an average of like an hour per level. And it goes really fast early on, and then it starts slowing down by the time you hit Mines of Moria. So it's quite possible in the space of 60 hours of gameplay, or maybe less. Like I'm not necessarily the fastest person, but 60 hours of gameplay, take a character from 1 to 60 without paying any extra money to get into a post Mines of Moria area of the game. You think the max level is 65 to 70 when you stop. Yeah, so it's quite possible. I was curious one day, so I timed myself with what's a reasonable level of progression? And if you're whizzing through the areas and all you're trying to do is get experience and level up, and you do that by questing, then yeah, think of it like 60 hours and it's back. And so while on the one hand, 60 hours is a lot, it is... In the scope of an MMO, it's not necessarily that much. Like, this character has been playing for 4 days, 9 hours, and it thinks a day is 24, right? So this character has been in existence, it's level 68. It's been in existence for about 105 hours. So, yeah, it's a pretty comparable rate of progression. And this is not my completionist character. My completionist character, that number starts with like months. And so 60 hours on the one hand, hopefully it's a fun commitment of time, because Lord of the Rings Online I find to be an enjoyable game to play, even though some of the stuff I'm doing, maybe I've done it before. But yeah, if you wanted to get yourself to where you were back in 2015, I don't think it would take that long to do it if you're talking about a single character. If you're talking about 10 or 20 characters, then you start getting into, that's a lot of replay. So your mileage may vary. You say you bought a lifetime account for $100 back in the day. Well, cool. Well, the good news is lifetime accounts still exist. So if you're ever interested in coming back to the game, logging on with that account, you'll probably have a bunch of LOTRO points just having accumulated every month since then. And so if you haven't played around with it, if you do log in, you do have those LOTRO points. There's things called Valars. So Valar, where you can skip that level accumulation. Nope. See all results. All right. Well, I'm searching for the wrong thing, but there's a thing that you can purchase. Oh, maybe because I'm on Treebeard. On a normal server, you can purchase a gift of the Valar and zoom forward. You say your points are gone because you didn't log in every month. That's interesting, because I did go away from the game without a lifetime subscriber account and came back 10 years later, and they were still there. So I guess if you haven't logged in to do check that. If you've logged in and they're not there, that's too bad. But gifts of the Valars are a way to skip 50 or 130, 140 levels of progression and just skip to kind of the current end game. So that can be a way to trade in-game currency for time. Oh, you haven't checked? Do check. Do check. There are reasons to believe that it's still accumulating if you're able to log in. So the Reddit says you could get a Valar and skip ahead, but why would you want to? Delirian says your password might have been changed sometimes because the account was dormant. So do try to log on if you can. If you still have your email account that you used back when you were playing, that's going to make it a lot easier to try to do a password recovery and so on. LT was the main raid back then. Oh, which one is that? LT. Well, now you got me curious. LT. What was 2015? Well, at any rate, I wish you good luck with that, and yeah, if you have the time, if you have the interest, there's been plenty of additions to the game since then. All right. Lieutenant of Dulguldur. Oh, I see. Nice. Yes, Dulguldur would have been endgame then. Very cool. Well, they still exist in the game, and they still need to be conquered. So we have a way to set ourselves visible, And so what we want to do then is come on into the options and do something about that. So what we want to do is when you click this button, we want to make the window visible. That's pretty easy. Call Harvestmath set ID with true. Set ID visible with true. Okay, we're going to come back in, reload Festival Buddy. And get an error message. Awesome. Attempt to call global. Draw Harvestmath main ID. All right, I didn't actually include this file, did I? All right, when you add a new file, do remember to include it anywhere you need it. So in our windows, we're going to go ahead and import. And this is Q Plugins Festival Buddy 2 dot and then Harvestmath. Why am I typing this? Rename. Copy that. Don't type when you can copy. Okay. That means we can come in and load this now. So if we come in and hit the button change, we can see it did appear, but not in the right position. Let's take a look at that. We did not, when we have a copy paste error is what we have. So we copied all this code and we changed how we were calling it, but not what we were calling it on. All right. Well, that's going to be, there we go. Okay, so we can see that we have a window here. Tanglecorn identify, well, that's sad. And whenever we press this button, it will show up if it's not there. And if we reload, that's interesting. The X and the Y. Oh, we didn't save that. Nice. Okay. Topcat asks, are you a GM? Nope, I am just a fan of the game who really enjoys writing plugins for the game. And Little Redhead points out, most of the streamers are just fans. SSG employers who stream are Cordovan and Scenario. Zeman, are you Dutch? I'm trying to be. I'm living in the Netherlands as an immigrant, so take that as you will. Okay. What are you? Oh, doormat in a box. I have ant bark. Handy. Okay, so we're not currently saving the location when this thing gets moved around, so it's always defaulting back to the current location, but we are saving its visibility. So unload and load, it's visible, make it hidden, unload and load. Oh, we're not responding to the window closed event. You noticed the name and that's why. Absolutely. Is Ettenmoor still a thing? Yes, PvMP is still a thing in the Ettenmoors. Different servers have different personalities, and so some of the servers may have a more active or aggressive PvMP scene. So if that's your goal, I recommend checking out the forums and getting advice there, because I do not know. Okay, we want to go ahead and lift a couple more basic functionality here. And again, a base class that would do this would be very nice. You can just pass it your settings key, and it would do things like update it when you close or move. But we're going to copy paste instead. All right, so what do we have? We have a variable set title. We don't need it. Set map coordinates. Nope. Set visible. We've lifted it. Toggle visibility. I don't think that's a thing that we need. Update quest. Nope. Set rotation. Definitely not. Rate pixel from unrotated. No, that's all very specifics. Map point. Standard chat message, don't need that. Pixels from coordinates, definitely not. LSC messages, oh my goodness. Okay, so we definitely don't need any of those. What we do need is to lift from here the callbacks for moving and closing. And those are probably here at the bottom. Awesome, and we're going to lift those. So add callback onto this. And the add callback is, I'm really curious if that works for LOTRO components, but it'll be fine for our purposes. And we're going to do that as a function sender args. Great. Okay, so when the position is changed, we want to go ahead and set our positions, our X and Y. So our settings X equals, and that's going to be this, or we could do sender probably, get left. And we also want to do the same for Y, but that's going to be get top. Topcat says, maybe a weird question, but is there still somebody who streams gameplay, raids, or instances? Most of the streamers, I'm probably the exception. I think all the streamers will stream some form of gameplay. Once in a while, I think the Prime kinship will do streaming of raids. And of course, people will stream whatever they happen to be playing, so if they're in instances, they'll be doing that. But I don't know anyone who currently actively, exclusively streams raiding or instances on the LOTRO stream channel here. But there's lots of people who stream LOTRO on Twitch in general, not just people who stream here on this channel. Okay, so we are saving off our X and a Y coordinate for the position changed. We also want to go ahead and add a callback for closing. And we'll do the same thing. We'll set that to false. Is that what we want? That's probably fine. Let's find out. Okay, I already have some errors. Attempt to call global add callback. That is a concern. Certainly, I need to spell it with the correct capitalization. All right, so if we move this over here, and if we close it and we unload all, and we come back in, and it pops open in the right place with the right saved visibility. So all of that's working great. Fantastic. Oh, Assyrian points out that SSG, Cordovan, possibly Severlin, mentioned that people could ask them directly if they wanted to stream on the LOTRO channel with the recent Q&A, during that recent Q&A 7 Core did. Yeah, so if there are people out there who are interested in doing instance or raid streaming, Severlin, I think, was pointing out that that adds an extra layer of complexity on top of the already presumably difficult raid that you're attempting to do, is also the streaming of it. You know, it's a not insubstantial amount of impact on your hardware to do both the streaming and recording and the actual gameplay. And then it splits your attention. You're focused both on here and on if anything's happening in, you know, stream chat, or technically if anything's going wrong with the stream. And so it's an extra challenge, but for those people who are interested in such a challenge and want to do that, yeah. You should think about reaching out and saying, I would like to stream raids and instances. Topcat is off in search of a stream. Good luck. Little Redhead points out when the next expansion drops next month, she's sure there will be more. That makes sense. Alright, we can see our title is a little bit too small for this window. Tanglecorn Identificat. Let's do a quick check on what we thought we were going to be setting there. Identification. Yeah, let's make that window a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so we have a window, and it has some basic functionality. Let's go ahead and add each image and button. So we have 5 images, 5 buttons to make. The temptation is there to do this in a loop instead of just hard coding 5 things. Let's add the first image and see what it looks like first, though. And a label might be nice. Let's do a label with just the number. Maybe an octothorpe also. So, local label maze label equals new. Oh, sorry, equals turbine dot UI.label. There we go. Got to type this without being distracted. Tellurian hypothesizes legal stuff. All people must be asked for legal reasons if they are good with transmitting their voices to a public media. Yeah, that is a point. You would want people you're rating with to know that this is a thing that they're opting into. And secondly, you as a streamer and as a raiding community, you need to decide if that raid comms is going into the stream or if the stream is just watching what's happening but not hearing the coordination behind it. Yeah, if you're interested in doing instances or raids on any game, not just this one, do be coordinating with your fellow raiders. Yeah, I could see it being interesting to watch what is happening, but without a running commentary or without hearing the strategy, I feel like it could be a challenge. It would definitely be for a specialized audience. And yeah, if you're working on new strategies and you don't want to share them with the world at large, you don't want to stream that. Good point, Little Redhead. All right, so we have a label, maze label. What do we first do? We set the parent so it's visible. And that parent's just going to be this window ID. And then maze label, set text. For now, we're just going to go with an Octothorpe 1. And maybe a colon here. And so hopefully that doesn't really need to be localized. Maze label, a set size. I don't know how big that is, but let's call it 5020. And maze label set position. We want that to be some offset for how far down we are and some amount over. Now, I don't want it to be very far over at all, just a couple of pixels. And in fact, yep, we have the space for it here. You know what? We don't need a label. We can have this be the text of the button. Let's do that instead. The LOTRO.button. And that's going to be renaming him. So we're setting the text is just number 1. And the size, that's great. And then the position is going to be further over. So we're going to set that to like 300 and... Oh, it's going to be 50 wide? Let's make it 40 wide and set it to 305 over. And position is going to be some amount down. Now these things are 100 tall. This thing is 20 tall. So if we want it to be centered, we want it to be halfway down. 150 minus half of that is 140. Okay, let's try that out. Now the other thing we need is the actual image. So local maze image equals, and then this is going to be a reference, no, it's going to be a turbine, sorry, .ui.control, where we can set the background equal to the image. First thing we do, set the parent, and that's going to be Harvestmath maze, and then we're setting the size, and that's going to be pretty straightforward because we know all of these are set size 300 by 100. And we're going to set that position. Well, it's going to be 0 and 0 relative to where we're starting. So the very top, well, can't be 0, 0. Oh man, we should probably have a control in which these things sit. A control to hold all of the other stuff. Local selection controls parent equals a turbine.ui.control. Wish that wasn't the first thing that auto selects. Okay, control. Okay, and first thing we do, set the parent, and that's going to go to harvest maze, etc. Okay. For that one, we're going to set its size to all of this that we're doing. So this is going to be content width and content height. So that's pretty straightforward. But its location is going to be offset. So set position that's going to be your Windows left border and your Windows top border. And that'll, by nesting everything inside something that's already offset, that's going to simplify our logic a lot. Okay, so we're setting that as the parent. So therefore our position here is 0, 0. Our position here is 305 and 140. That's all great, because these were all relative to a 0, 0. Okay. So the other thing we need to do is to set the background here. So we need a maze image set background to something. And we probably need a maze image set blend, back color blend mode. Well, that's back, okay, blend. Set blend mode. And for that, we need something. So what are our options? They're not spelled out here. That's too bad. Let's pull up the reference here. There we go. Okay, LOTRO API reference. We're going into turbine.ui, and we're coming on down to blend mode. 4 is probably what we want. Yeah, so alpha blend. Turbine.ui.blendmode.alpha blend. Because we do have some transparencies here, we want to not see them, I think. We'll check that out. All right, so we're going to set that background. We need a thing to put in there, which is going to be in our images. Okay, so we have already have Harvestmath stuff. We're going to go ahead and okay. This is going to be Tanglecorn ID 1 equals, and it's going to look like this. Now we have Tanglecorn ID 1.tga, great. And we're going to go ahead and just create 4 more of those. Great. So now we can come on back in for our set background, and that's going to be images dot harvest. Nope. Oh, of course. Harvestmath dot Tanglecorn ID 1. Okay. Well, let's give that a try and see what we see. Hey, well, we see a couple of things. First of all, we are not seeing our button where we want it to be. Our button was down 140, but of course these were 100 tall, not 300 tall. I was thinking the wrong thing. It'd be easier if we actually spelled this out. 100 divided by 2 minus 20 divided by 2. And we can use parentheses if we're at all concerned about order of operations. I assume the Lua parser would use PEMDAS, but we don't have to assume. We can just force it. Cool. So instead of doing the math in our head, we can just have the computer do the math, and we can see number 1. Great. So we click it. We can move forward with that. So this feels pretty parameterizable, except for what do we put here? And the answer is, well, that is a string. We can build that string. So let's go ahead and think about what a Lua for loop looks like. Now I can never remember what a Lua for looks like for for 1 to n. Okay, numerical for. That's what we're looking for. So for I equals 1 to whatever. Okay, so we need for I equals 1 to 5 do end. Okay, just to double check that's what we want, we can go ahead and do turbine.shell.writeLine. We can say I equals and concatenate it in. All right, come back in. We see I equals 1, goes all the way up to 5. Awesome, we're going to hit all the numbers that we want. Okay, so now that we're in there, let's go ahead and move these bits up. So we have a maze image, and we need some parameterizations. So our position is going to be 0 over yes, and we need I minus 1 times 100. And that'll put them exactly after each other. And the other thing we need is to replace this dot notation with string notation. And instead of hard coding a 1 in there, we can just concatenate our I. And now we have Tanglecorn ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, what else do we have? We have a maze button. We need to set the text. So number, concatenate in I. And the size is fine, but the position, it's always going to be the right number over, but this 100 right there needs to be 100 times I. Okay, well that's probably going to be all of them. Let's check. Okay, awesome. Now there's no space between them, and that's a little incoherent looking. So let's go ahead and plan on having some space. We can even have some lines or something. So instead of 100, let's go ahead and add an extra 10 for space between them. And then our positions here for everything will be oh, hey, someone has donated towards SSGs. This is anonymous, so don't know who you are, but as is tradition this time of the week, we're going to go ahead and do a Hobbit flip to celebrate that $100 donation towards Extra Life. Thank you, Anonymous.
That's not a Hobbit flip.
I'm being told that's not a Hobbit flip. It's a river Hobbit flip. In man form. It's a current known issue. Hopefully they get that fixed soon. Okay, so we were going to space things out. And so what we want to do is start saying, hey, our Y position is starting to get a little wonky. Local Y equals, and okay. So this was starting out to be I minus 1 times 100. And then this right here, local button Y equals, and that's going to be Y plus 100 divided by 2 minus 20 divided by 2. So we're still using some magic numbers here, but we're really just adding half the height minus half the button. And so we'll get all of that math out of there. And for this, we're going to add Y, and that'll make it a little bit easier to start adjusting these things. Little Red Head says, I'll do a real Hobbit flip in Anonymous's honor on my stream next week. Well, fair enough. It's pretty cool. SSG is already over halfway to their goal of 30,000 in this Extra Life season. So very, very cool. Okay, so we want to add some spacing between these, and so that's adding stuff to the top. So if we add something based on I times 10, for instance, to this Y, plus I times 10, that might sort it out. Let's take a look. Yeah, so we can see we've added 10 pixels between each one of the ones and the following. But when I is 1, we do have gap at the very top, and maybe we don't want that. Okay, so we have an option of whether we want spacing at the very top or not. I'm thinking, I don't know. You're crunching food very loudly, cat. Crunch. Well, better now than in the middle of the night. Okay. I am ambivalent over whether we want that or not, but that's okay. Now, one thing we can see is that all of these ended up not using extra length on the right. We have one extra column on the left for number 5, and 2 on the left for number 1. That means we're using a lot of horizontal space here that doesn't necessarily make sense. And so one of the things we could do is to say, hey, the size of this image, instead of 100, is less than that. Well, what would it be? Don't know. Let's turn all these on. We can see the furthest extent is this one. So that would actually be more like 225. Well, we could say that's 225. All right, what does that look like? Well, it doesn't actually look like anything because we didn't adjust the location of this. So if we said local image width equals 300, we can go ahead and sub that in for the size here, and then this is image width plus 5. So then if we take that down to 225, we can see everything moves over. But that doesn't need to be defined each time through that loop. In fact, we can come over here, and this could be image width plus 50. Okay. And suddenly the window is smaller because it's parameterized on the size of these clips here. Now, I would say those buttons feel like they're a little bit too, closer to the image. So pickiness sake, let's go ahead and maybe add another 10 pixels over there. And we can see that feels a little bit more centered between the image and the right border. I almost bump it up a little bit more. 240. Okay, sounds great. So we have a little bit of that transparency to the right. Cool. So what are we missing? Well, the buttons don't do anything. That's certainly a thing. And so what we'd want to do is take advantage of the maze button dot click. And we're going to assign that to an anonymous function with sender and args. And that's going to do something. Now, right now, all it's going to do is write out something. Click. And we're going to write out I. So we see click 1, click 2, click 3, click 4, and click 5. So we know which button was clicked, even though they're all getting what looks like the same click function, because we're able to get that parameter I into here. Okay, so what do we do then? Well, I mean, if nothing else, clicking it should probably close the window and also update the map. So what do we want to do? Call a function that A, closes this window, B, saves the value plus the start time that value is valid for, C, load the correct map into the window, D, something else I'm forgetting? What am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing something, but that's okay. So we have three definite things we want to do. We want to click this button, we want the window to go away, we want to save off that time, we want to load the value, and really once we've saved the time, we can just call the function that says load based off of the current saved time. And so I'm going to actually say closing the window should be the last thing we do. Because if it doesn't happen, that's fine. So we need to save a value. So let's go ahead and make a new function that we can call. So function Harvestmath maze ID set ID. And I'm doing a poor man's version of object-oriented programming here, where all of the functions that deal with the Harvestmath maze ID object or variable, I'm prefixing them with the same things here, so that you can tell what they're supposed to do. Like if we just had a set ID function in the Harvestmath Tanglecorn ID win file, it wouldn't be nearly so obvious what's going on here. Oh, and the file name is right. I was going to change that, wasn't I? Rename Harvestmath maze. And I do need to remember to update that in the main import. That's where I was looking for. Okay, so yeah, just because it's a function in here doesn't mean that it's scoped in the global namespace unless it was in its own folder. So this way, you don't just have a function called setID. You have Harvestmath maze ID. This is the object, the type that we're operating on, setID. That being said, we are just, yeah, it's fine. So we want to call this, and we want to pass in ID. All right, so this is the calling this function should updates the current Harvestmath. No, sets the current Harvestmath maze ID. Okay, this is a integer maze number from 1 to 5. Okay, so we have an ID and we have some basic functionality. So the first thing we're going to do is going to call Harvestmath maze ID set ID with I. And we can see when we've added this IntelliSense, so we know that's supposed to be an integer from 1 to 5. Makes it much easier to tell what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so first thing we do is set ID. We're not going to do the other stuff in there. We're not going to load the correct map. We're not going to close the window. This is a single purpose function, which is going to the effort of figuring out all of this logic. And this is going to be, maybe this is a good place to pause for tonight. What we're going to do here is we're going to be getting this server time. We're going to try to figure out when the previous 10 a.m. was, and that's either going to be 10 a.m. of the current day if we're after 10 a.m., or 10 a.m. of the previous day if we're before 10 a.m. And also, we have to care about properly adding and subtracting days in case we're near the boundary condition of a month. So it's going to be some pretty basic date manipulation code, especially if I can figure out what Lua libraries there are for such things. But I think it's going to be a little bit longer than we want to get to here. We've currently been streaming about 3.5 hours. This is probably a pretty good breaking point. So now's a good time to put any last minute questions, comments, concerns into chat before we hit the end here. I'm going to go ahead and look at source control so we can start making some commits here. Updated Tanglecorn maps to only have challenge or cheat paths. Thank you, Garlo. Okay. Added Tanglecorn ID images. Okay. Hey, that part's done too. Done. Okay. All right, globals. Updated default maze map window position to better center it. So that's just going to be this change right there. We're also added default settings for the Harvestmath maze ID window. Okay. Added Harvestmath maze ID window. Added beginning of that. So that's going to come in here. We're going to include that. We need to include that. Don't need that yet. Okay, we need that. Windows, titles. Yep. Okay. All of that's good. updated Tanglecorn corner coordinates. Yep. These are just for testing purposes, so we're not ready to deal with that yet. Options. Updated comment. That's just this one. And also, what is this? Added button to open. Added options button to open the Harvestmath maze ID window. Nice. Okay. Changed object. Hey, oh. What do we call that? Sure, we'll call it that. And that is just that, which I'm glad we remembered to commit that today because I would have been very confused next week when I looked at that. Okay, so what are we looking at today? We have added the introduction quest in here. We've gone ahead and shown how to use the radar to make a poor man's map, especially when you can just put the quest rings on there that you care about. So pick up quests that are in the way. We have updated the coordinates here of the boundary so that we can better locate where we are in the map. So when I run against this wall, we can see the arrow is also against the wall, so that's great. And we've made the beginning of the Tanglecorn identification window. Oh, the window is now narrow enough where that should probably just be Tanglecorn ID. Okay, let's come on in and do that. We're going to come in into strings, identification, and that's just going to be Tanglecorn ID. There we go, much better. So we have a Tanglecorn ID window that we can open manually if for some reason it is not set correctly. That was already one of our goals, was to allow the user to override the number. So they can go into the options, they can open this up, they can set the number. Clicking each of these numbers currently doesn't do anything yet, but will. And that's going to be a great point for further work, because once the user clicks this, we can see what time is it. Therefore, at what time does this maze start? And therefore, in the future, when we accept this quest, we can say, oh, that's interesting. What if you have the quest when the clock rolls over? What we can do is make a note to our future self. This is a future us problem. Okay. Need to periodically check the time and change the shown map if the clock has passed 10 a.m. server time. Yeah, I was talking to someone, I think it was Garlo again, and they said they had a character parked in the maze, maybe even after the festival ends, and they could see at 10 a.m. the walls come down, the inner maze walls come down, and then the new walls go up. And so my guess that it's the portal that changes at 10 a.m. and if you're already in the maze, you get the old one. That was wrong. It turns out, and you probably have a quest fail at 10 a.m. also, but it turns out that, well, maybe not. Maybe you can keep going. But yeah, the inner walls fall down, they come back, and you have the maze change right there. And they were saying it was really neat because anyone who is in the maze, when the walls come down, you can see everyone. You're just in this giant box, and then the walls come back up. So I think that would be neat if, say, once a minute, once every 30 seconds, something. I mean, in fact, if we get called, we can just check to see, first of all, has it been long enough since the last check? At least a second, at least 10 seconds, whatever. And if it has, do the actual more complicated math of saying, how long has it been? Are we on the new one? Are we past 10 a.m.? Whatever we need to check. Okay. Neat. We have that idea. So we've made some really good progress, and once we're able to connect this up, we'll write the code custom for Harvestmath, which is to say which of these maps is the current map. And so that's going to be an interesting one, because right now in our quest strings, we have the concept of what is the map for this quest. But what we don't have is, we don't have a good way to deal with that. To deal with the idea that there could be multiple maps for the quest. I still don't have a firm idea of how that's going to work. But if this was a function instead of an actual thing, if this was a stored function that you just executed, that could go a lot of the way. And in fact, you can check, is this a string or is it a function? And if it's a function, you could call the function in order to get the string result. We'll have to play around with that. Yeah, we'll have to play around with that, because right now, all of these being stored as strings doesn't support the idea of multiple maps. Anyway, that's a problem for later. So, that being said, I think that's going to be everything. I haven't seen any last minute comments, questions, or concerns come on into chat. So, let's see, what do we have? The next stream on the schedule is Adventuring Back to Rohan with Milung at 9 p.m. server time, aka Eastern Daylight Time, for another week and a half, and then I believe they're switching to Eastern Standard Time at the end of the month. So if that's of concern to you, watch out. Europe changes a week or so later, I think. So that's going to be, I don't know, what time is it? That's like 3 a.m. our time, so that's going to be another 4.5 hours. Cool. And with that, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.